Hello, everybody, and welcome back for the second segment of the November 11th Trips and Traps. I'm Andy Serling with Eric Donovan.
3 more races to bring you, all turf races, all long races, so why don't we get to the discussions right now. The first race we're going to take a look at, third race from Saturday, the 7 Kid Tornado.
Yeah, and Kid Tornado is a horse that he's just unlucky. He breaks a step slow, horse inside comes over on him a little bit, bumps him, and he finds himself shuffled way out of the race. Now, it's a problem, because I guess he has a little more speed. At this point, you'd like to think he could have settled in somewhere here for whatever reason. Doesn't work out that way. The field's bunching a little bit. The horse in the front end is a logical-looking horse, but he ends up collapsing. Kid Tornado's in the middle of the field here. If the field had spread out and he had drifted back and maybe gotten to the two-path or something or towards the inside, it would have been fine. But he's out here 3 wide. I don't care that much about the wide if, in fact, it's part of a better trip. But when he's 3 wide here, he gets out in the clear. The worst thing you can be is the horse moving wide in the clear, making that first move in these turf races.
And there he goes on the outside, making that their first move and up about the four-path now down the backstretch. And, you know, this is the first of 2 moves I think Kid Tornado makes in the race that kind of hurt his chances quite a bit here, and we'll see even more on the turn when the jock decides to just make a big run up to the lead, and that just doesn't work out either.
Yeah, it's just basically the start. You know, here's the thing. Where would Kid Tornado have been in this race if he didn't have the trouble at the start? Would he be sitting second to the leader? Would that inevitably have hurt him? I don't know, because when you consider that he lost the whole race by about a half length. Now, there was about 3 lengths from first to something like 8th or 9th in this race, but here's Kid Tornado making that first move, making the widest move, wide in the first turn, wide in the second turn, lost position to start, making the early rush lead, and then you take a look at the fact the winner of this race, Brad's my hero, came from well back in here. I just thought Kid Tornado's the horse who ran much the best race.
Yeah, I think when you break it down and show the problem at the start, plus the ground loss on the turn, the move on the backstretch, the wideness on the second turn, and the move on the second turn as well, Kid Tornado definitely ran a winning race. And I think this was his first time in for a tag after a couple of allowance tries, so Kid Tornado, definitely a horse who I think next time out in this condition you have to take a serious look at.
Yeah, it was. He was making a big drop, but they'll run this condition either here one more time for him or he'll go to Florida and run this condition. Kid Tornado runs against a similar type field, gets a fair trip. He's winning this condition next time.
All right, we'll take a look at the next race, and this is the 8th race from Saturday, and we're going to look at the 5. Bernice, who, things kind of unfold similarly around the second turn as it did for Kid Tornado.
This is not exactly a great trip for Bernice, to say the least. First of all, you see Bernice, and Bernice is in those orange silks, and we'll highlight her. She goes to the first turn, you're following her. She's basically a dead closer. Now, she gets a dream situation. She's got 2 million-to-1 shots dueling on the front end, beating each other's brains, and they run last and third to last. All she has to do is sit back here, make one run. She wins the race. She's clearly much the best horse in this race. In her prior effort, the winner of the race was Ranger James, and some people perhaps thought that Ranger James was allowed by the rider to be getting, there she is, get a jump on her. When she was actually, I think Bernice was actually ahead of Ranger James. Ranger James made that move, Bernice let him go, and then Bernice made the final run and couldn't catch him. I thought Ranger James just ran the better race. In this race, I think the ride in this race reflects a decision that they allowed the other horse to get away from him last time. Bernice makes the first move in this race. The eventual winner of this race, Johannesbull, gets a very, very crafty ride by Gringo Velasquez, who waits patiently to Bernice's early premature move, takes advantage of that, wins by a head, and never should have won.
And you see where Johannesbull is right now, just in front of Bernice here, and Bernice is going to make this 4-wide move toward the lead around the turn here. Just a premature move here by the rider. No need to go up and chase this pace 4-wide here, and you could just sit, kind of sat right outside where Johannesbull was, waited for, bide your time, wait for, a clear run, and just get out and make a big move. And you see here, Bernice just, kind of just going along with Semi, galloping to the front end here, and going to get a little bit tired late and get run down by Johannesbull.
And actually, Johannesbull goes almost a half length in front. Bernice battles back, almost wins again. There was no reason for this. Bernice would have won by 2 lengths easily if Bernice had sat back and sat with Johannesbull and they had moved together. And it gets that mentality of people who said, I remember going back to the Belmont Stakes, Funny Side should have opened up 8 lengths on the far turn and therefore would have somehow won the race. It doesn't work that way. You don't want to make that early move. And it's interesting, I think if you went back and watched a lot of our turf races that we ran here last week, you would have seen that last move doing so well. We just saw it with Brad's our hero. I look back to that maiden race in the carryover on Sunday when Dukenfield, it wasn't the fall of the rider, but the winner got a very good ride by Javier Castellano, a first-time starter for Michael Matz. That horse made the last move. The last move won it here. Bernice should have been the last mover, or even moving similarly would have won the race.
Now let's take a look at our final race. This is the the ninth race, I should say, from Sunday. We're looking at the 1 City Vice, a horse that to this point had just been all in sprints, whether it be dirt or turf. Now this is the first time going long here, so kind of curious to see how this horse is going to do around 2 turns and breaking from the inside. Gets in a little bit of traffic trouble early on, but this really isn't what the whole concern is about. You'll see it more as they move for the backstretch off the first turn and what happens to the horse here, but having to steady a little bit here, kind of in behind horses.
Yeah, City Vice certainly doesn't get a clean trip, and it's sort of one of these problems with the turf races here, especially, is that you have an inside post, and we saw it a little bit, though the horse moved to the inside. In the first horse that we showed, Big Jerome, you see it with City Vice, you end up even get shuffled back. You have an outside post, you get wide. What do you do?
Yeah, well, in this case, you're going to get shuffled back to last to make a wide move here. You see the horse right outside of City Vice kind of steady a little bit there, and then City Vice is going to take back, and the jock decides to take back even more and lose all position. You're going to see the whole field pass by City Vice, whereas City Vice in the early stages of the race was about in mid-pack. City Vice is now next to last, about to soon be last, and waiting for this other horse to clear off so City Vice can go and make an outside run here, and the run that this horse makes around the far turn is comical.
Yeah, and it's a problem. It's something else that we talk about, and it's something that I've discussed with riders in the past, the concept of moving forward. You want to be attempting to move forward, and what I mean by that, and what other people mean when they say it in riding, is not so much, and there's City Vice making that big move, I don't want to miss that. You don't want to be taking your horse out of position. It's one thing to not want to get caught up in the pace or anything, but you don't want to be giving up or ceding ground for no reason.
So here's City Vice, who had that traffic problem down the backstretch, and that probably cost about 5 or 6 lengths, getting spun out wide here in about the 4 or 5 path, making a little bit of a premature move around the turn. City Vice is going to tire here a little bit, as expected, but I thought this was kind of a good race where the trouble early on in the race might get hidden by the fact this horse kind of finished in mid-pack, and it's not totally obvious trouble for a lot of people.
Yeah, this is one that Eric and I have argued about, and I have no argument with him about the trip overall for this horse because of, my issues with horses going short in turf races, stretching out, going longer, and how it doesn't work out that often. But I can't argue with him that City Vice certainly had a bit of a trip in this race, and at a price, one more chance on this turf course, you certainly may want to throw this horse in at the very least.
I agree. That's a lot of food for thought here. Hopefully, as we said, these 5 turf races, some of these horses will get back before the end of the turf season. I have confidence that they will.
So do I, and I have confidence we have a lot more time left in this turf season as well as the season on the main track. We've got 3 weeks left on the main track. Once again, trips and traps at NYRAInc.com. Please send your thoughts. We'd love to hear them, and we appreciate your watching, and we'll see you next week.